Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville and the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. We have a really important show for you today. Our guest is Samaya Wilkins. She is the author of Searching for Sunshine, and this is a really important conversation about family and mental illness. Before Samaya joins us, I want to let you know about a great family event that is happening this coming Sunday, October 6th, in Costa Mesa, California. It is the Orange County Children's Book Festival, the largest children's book festival in North America. And the Reading with Your Kids podcast will be there. We hope you'll be there with us, too. We have a booth. Be sure to check out our booth. It's number D5 in the yellow section. We're also going to be presenting the Reading with Your Kids magic show on the Illustrator stage. It's happening all this Sunday, October 6th. And I am really, really excited. We're going to be having a number of our Reading with Your Kids podcast guests at the exhibit booth. Lisa Caprelli is going to be there. And together we are going to make a magical debut of her unicorn jazz plushie. We're so excited about that. Well, Dennis Matthew is also going to be there. He's the author of Bello the Cello, the author of The Circus Fish. Marla Humer said she'll be joining us, and so many more. Be sure to check it all out. It's happening in Costa Mesa, California this Sunday, October 6th. It's the Orange County Children's Book Festival. Joining us right now from beautiful Piscataway in New Jersey. She is the author, or the co-author of a really, really important series of books. And we're really excited to welcome her today. The name of the first book is Search for Sunshine. Please welcome to the show, Samaya Wilkins. Samaya, how are you?
Hi, guys. Hi, Jed.
So happy to have you here and to talk a little bit about your books and also to talk to you about this whole brand that you're creating called SCW Kids. Tell us, let's start off first with that. What does SCW Kids stand for?
Okay, so SCW Kids to start with is basically just like a fun cheer. Like, you know, basically like, so the S is going to stand for smart. The C is going to stand for care. The W, of course, is for what? And of course, it's kids. We want kids that are smart. We want kids that care. And of course, like we all want that to start with our children. Mm-hmm. So that's where SCW Kids start.
Now, what inspired you to create SCW Kids and also inspire you to write Searching for Sunshine? And as I understand it, you wrote this with your daughter, Malia. Is that right?
Yes. Searching for Sunshine, which can be found on Amazon, it was inspired by my daughter, and it was inspired by my own journey with mental health. In March of 2015, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features. And my daughter, Malia, June Gratz, has witnessed like me go through everything. And so when I started writing my first children's book, Searching for Sunshine, I started in mind just kind of like writing about my own kind of distress. And then with the developmental questions that are presented page by page within each book, I was just asking her questions to kind of like just see if she understood where I was at and thinking about how my situation was affecting her mentally. And that's kind of how, you know, the concept of the workbooks began.
I have to tell you, I have to give, you know, I wish you were right in front of me because I'd love to give you a great big hug for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's so courageous, I think, of you to make your struggle public, because there's such, it's not as bad as it was when I was a kid growing up, but, there's still a stigma attached to mental illness, and we have a hard time talking about it. And so I'm really happy that you did that. But I'm also, as another parent, I'm so proud of you being able to sit down and talk with your daughter about this, because as someone who dealt with this in my family as a kid growing up, we didn't talk about it at all. It was never brought up. Even when we went to the hospital, which was very different than most hospitals, I'm like, where are we? We're just here to visit this person. But why are they here? Never mind. Just be happy and smile.
Just celebrate whatever you're celebrating.
Right. So, hats off to you again for being willing to share your journey, and also to be courageous enough to talk with your and understand that it's so important for your daughter to be able to understand it and talk about it.
Yeah, it's really important for me because I know how. It was a kind of a bittersweet moment for me when I was diagnosed, because I felt like, at the time I felt like, I had an answer to all the unexcused behavior and, questions. But at the same time, I kind of felt like, I felt defeated. I felt like it was going to be a really hard trek. Mm-hmm. And I just, my thing is not just for my daughter, but for kids that are dealing, I don't want to say suffering from, but I want to say kids that are dealing with these circumstances. Like, I just want, us to all be aware of the fact that it's not an end-all, be-all. Like, we might process a little bit differently, mm-hmm. but our goals and, our desires are still the same. It's just the method that we take to get there, and that's not something that I just want to express to people that live with these circumstances, with developmental and mental health circumstances, but also people who live without these. Like, not everybody has to, process your way to be successful. And we need to be open to developing new ways on the mainstream level to have people that do deal and live with these circumstances on a daily basis, to make it more available for us and our methods to be acceptable in society, and to not be abnormal, to not be, okay, well, we can't do anything but accept a check and grieve. Mm-hmm. For my friends that are here surrounding me now, my friends that will hear this, and for people, that just need that confirmation, we can sustain, but we have to do it our way, and we need supportive people around us, Mm-hmm. That's all it is, and that's the message that SCW Kids wants to deliver.
Do you have any idea of how many kids are living with parents or being cared for by parents who are suffering from a mental illness or who are dealing with a mental illness?
No, honestly, I am not coming at this point in stage. I am not coming from a statistical mm-hmm. standpoint. I'm literally coming from, life experience. I don't know how many other, parents are dealing with children, but I do know that there are others, even if it's just one. And I do know that, when I endured these hospital stays as an inpatient, mental inpatient, when I endured these stays, there were people that were my age. There were people that were younger than me. There were people that were older than me. I do know that it's not just the children that are going through this. It's the parents that need it as well. Mm-hmm. And so, no, I don't know a number or a specific demographic that this can touch. Honestly, I don't. But I know that with my life experience and the people that I've come in contact with, I know that I'm not the only one. Oh. And I'm completely ready, willing, and able to be the first spokesperson for us, but not the only one. I want us to all have our own voices and not be ignorant or, outlandish as they would try to tag us. Mm-hmm. Like, outlandish and saying all of us are capable because sometimes there are just things that are beyond our capacity as human beings. But there are exceptions, and there can be more than just exceptions. It could be, more than just the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a doctor,
Right.
I'm not a doctor. I am not a professional. I'm just somebody who has lived with mental health. And I'm somebody who has succeeded and decided to start my own company and spread awareness about this. And if I can do it, I just know there is no way, absolutely no way that somebody like me that has suffered like me or survived through what I've survived through or less can do the same thing. It's just I'm not that special.
Right. Well, I might disagree that you're not special. I think you're pretty special. The reason I asked you is that you're right. Your daughter is not the only daughter that is dealing with a parent who has a mental illness. I am sure the percentage of folks who have or dealing with mental illness is pretty high. It's probably 20 to 30% of the population. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's, 20% of the kids out there have one or more parents who are dealing with some type of mental illness. And again, mental illness, there's a wide, we talk about how wide the autism spectrum is. The mental illness spectrum is also really, really wide. You told us that you were suffering from bipolar 1. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? Because I know people are familiar with the name bipolar, but I don't know if they understand what that really means.
Okay, well, there are 2 types of bipolar disorders, and I won't pretend to remember what the difference between the 2 are. However, I am bipolar 1, and I am diagnosed not just bipolar 1, but with psychotic features. So that kind of makes it a little bit different. What I have experienced with being bipolar with psychotic features, I have hallucinated. I have dealt with suicide. I have dealt with, as a woman, a lack of hygiene, a lack of focus, a lack of money management. These are all like signs, and I would say start to look from like preteen to like middle, from preteen to teenage years, because mental health isn't diagnosed until like your mid or late 20s. So it's it's a diagnosis that comes pretty later in your life. Mm-hmm. So you kind of like hit a lot of pit stops and a lot of stumbles before you actually kind of figure out what's wrong. And that's why I find that these workbooks are important, because you can kind of have that early pre-screening. And I don't know, but it's not coming to mainstream as prominent as I feel like it should be. It's imperative. It's right now. You see a million truth commercials about this, and I just feel like, I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to come off as I am. I'm just a person that has dealt with this personally, and as a person who has been diagnosed with bipolar 1, these are the things I experienced: hallucinations, suicide, a lack of focus, mania, being hyper for no reason, and then automatically just being like irritated and depressed, and don't ask me how I'm doing because I don't want to answer you. Mm-hmm. It's just look for these signs, and if you experience these signs, go get help. If you see these signs in your children, don't be afraid to say, well, maybe my child can just use some therapy, especially during their teenage years, and that's the biggest thing that I can say. If you know that these things are happening, and even, if your child is a little bit more rambunctious, your child is a little bit more wild, just Google. That's literally my best friend. Google. And when I found out I was bipolar, I Googled it first, and then I went to a hospital to confirm. Don't be afraid to admit that you're not perfect. Figure out your flaws and correct what you feel like needs to be corrected. Whether your circumstance is as big as a mental health diagnosis, or whether your circumstance is as small as, I want to change my diet, I want to eat less red meat, mm-hmm. Figure out, what the pros and cons are, and then make it work for you. And that goes all the way, that basic essential goes all the way to people like myself that have these mental health and developmental disabilities. All you have to do is learn yourself, learn your disability, and
I think
have fun doing it and spread awareness. You know, that it's literally just that simple. Once you learn yourself and you're not just like, you know, being diagnosed from like a third party, and you're actually like, okay, this is what they're telling me I have, but now it's me to be responsible and learn exactly what this cause is and how it can affect people generally, and how I find it affecting myself and what I can do to change it from mental or physical. It's the same.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is really, really important, that, you know, if you feel that there's that you're suffering in some way, or if you feel that your child is dealing with some challenges, the best thing to do is to get some help and to not be afraid to reach out. And again, that's goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the interview, is that we're much more likely these days to get help than folks were, 30 or 40 years ago. But there's still that stigma attached sometimes to mental illness, so it's really important to find the courage to get out there and to get some help. And I love, searching for sunshine as you're talking about it. I think it's obviously it'd be a great book for a family that's dealing with mental illness, but I also think it's a great book for any family because, in one way or the other, every single person is touched by mental illness, and it's important for all kids to have an understanding of what it is and what it isn't, and also to have an empathy and develop empathy for people who are suffering with these types of challenges.
I absolutely, and it's important to self-confidence comes a big role, and that's why it's so important for me to express that it's not just people with mental health disabilities, it's for everyone. And then we just have to exert a little bit more energy and effort into learning how our own brain processes things and what works for us. But these basic principles apply to everyone. If you feel like there's something that you want to change in yourself, don't be ashamed to say, I'm not perfect. I want to change that. And then take the necessary steps to do so. That's what makes us human. And that's what makes us better humans. And that's what makes us a better society. We don't have to stick in these stigmas that society puts on us. We don't have to stick in these stigmas that we put on ourselves. We can literally put effort into becoming the same way people put effort into going into the gym and working their muscle mass. We can do the same thing with our brains. And our brains are so much more heavy than our muscles. It is the ultimate muscle. And it's just like, if you have a problem with yourself, anybody suffering from, living with, dealing with, accepting or not, with mental health or developmental disabilities, just work on yourself. Figure out exactly what it is that you want to change, and then put that physical energy, that physical effort into changing it. I am bipolar. I live it. I'm proud of it. And although I might not be able to sustain a job, enough to, live a stable or maintain a stabilized lifestyle, I can start a business. I can start a company. And this is something I can sit still and do for 7 hours, on my own accord, and still live productive, still be a positive role model for my own child and children who live with the same disorders as I am, and just kind of positively prove all those stigmas wrong. All you have to do is, number one, decide that you have something about yourself that you want to make better. And then number two, work on doing that. And that's all it takes. It doesn't matter what you're diagnosed with. It doesn't matter what your limits are. We see it every day. People who go to war and, they're running marathons with artificial limbs, it's the same thing, but it's just mental, and it's misunderstood only for the simple fact that it can't be seen. It's not tangible, but it's just as real as the air that we breathe, that factually sustains our lungs, you know. We have these issues, and it's a bunch of us walking around with the same crisis. And even though you can't see it, doesn't make it real. Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't make it less tangible. And we can still do the same things. We just have to have our process be acknowledged with the proper marketing, and we have to have our process, you know, made aware of. We have to let them know it's not your process, it's ours, but we can do this too, and we can have the same goals, the same results, and maybe you'll have fun learning the way I operate, and maybe I can be more practical, more logical, more disciplined with the way you operate. But just because you're more logical and disciplined doesn't mean that your operation is the only way. It doesn't mean that ours is less acceptable. And that's just what I'm here to say in the most positive and the most humble way, but to also still be taken seriously because we matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Where did you find this, such a positive outlook?
From God, honestly. If I don't mean to, I don't mean to get too religious or overstep my boundaries, but I'm super spiritual, universal, however you may put it, religious. And I never left that through homelessness, through mental health, through everything that I've been through. I never left my relationship with God. It didn't matter. I grew up Baptist, and when I wasn't going to my Baptist church the way I was, a Jehovah's Witness knocked on my door, and I invited them in, and I Bible studied with Jehovah's Witnesses. I never left my relationship with God because God is love. God is understanding. We all have, especially me being bipolar, I can snap. No one's perfect. The most pleasant, no one's perfect, but I look for something more positive, something bigger than myself. That when I get weary, I know it's this constant positive energy that flows, and that's what I seek, and I've never left that. I've never stopped believing that in the end there will be nothing but positivity left on earth, and I'm just kind of fighting that battle now, while I'm here, not just for my religious beliefs, but also for my personal beliefs and what I have endured, you know what I'm saying, here myself. With mental health and without knowing that I had mental health issues. So that's kind of what, and just, on a more basic, superficial scheme of things, if that's what to call it, my daughter, I want her with her daughter, again, being severely schizophrenic, and with her mom being diagnosed with bipolar, with psychotic features. I just want her to understand that, it don't have to, if you come to a point where you're peer pressured and drugs affect your mental health, or it's just God's plan for your mental health to be affected or altered because your parents deal with this, I just want her to know that it just doesn't have to be you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? It can still be, this is what it is. So how do I deal with this? How do I figure it out? How do I make it creative? How do I make it creative and productive? How do I make it creative, productive, and successful? Productive and, it's just not, I'm diagnosed with this, so now I'm in hospitals or I'm in programs or I'm in, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. We
just have to be heard. We have to be acknowledged, and we have to be understood and then accepted. And it's a process, but we're here for it because we're worth it,
You are absolutely worth it. And I'm so happy that we've had a chance to hear you tonight, and that folks are going to have a chance to go out and check out Searching for Sunshine and finding out all about the SCW kids and what Samaya Wilkins is all about. Samaya, where can folks find out more about your book and connect with you online?
You can find Searching, the word searching, the number 4, and then Sunshine, and it's on Amazon.com. We have a new book that we're releasing called Robot Me. It will be available at independent bookstores located in New Jersey, and it will also be available on Amazon internationally and within the States. It's called Robot Me and Searching for Sunshine. Right now, you can just be on the lookout for us. We're coming nationally, internationally, but right now you can find us on Amazon.com, and you can also find us on our Instagram page at SCW_kids. Amazon.com and Instagram.
awesome. We have had the pleasure of talking to the author of Searching for Sunshine, Samaya Wilkins.
Yay! Thank you so much, Dad. It's been absolutely a pleasure. You're awesome. Reading with your kids, #awesome.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Susan Arts. She'll be telling us about her beautiful and touching book, Looking for Something. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest is fun, it's easy, and it is absolutely free, and it is a wonderful way to tell thousands and thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button, let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the people who made today's show so very, very wonderful. We want to thank Samaya Wilkins. Samaya Wilkins, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing and being open. It's so important and so valuable for all of us to hear your story. I also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out Fatima's blog at our website, readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.